Module 7, Disciplinary Lenses and Analysis. The best time to view this is after the second class meeting, so that you have already received feedback on your first subtopic. As you discovered the first night of class, the lenses through which scholars view the world affect what they look for and how they see. Your essays will probably fall into one of two categories: business-related or related to the psychology and sociology disciplines. The last two tend to overlap for reasons you will soon see, so we group them together as Psych-Soc. Since only about 10% of the essays students write are in the humanities disciplines, we will not discuss them further on the CD. If that's one of your topics, your instructor will guide you. Business-related topics generally focus on practical solutions to everyday problems. These essays often adopt a how-to approach, but it is also important to explain why certain decisions were made. What criteria did you use or develop? What mistakes did you initially make and eventually learn from? How did you do things differently the next time a similar situation arose? Since there is no college course in how you solve problems in your particular workplace, you must also describe your learning in terms of generalities that could apply in other business settings. Many students worry that unless they know specific terms or concepts that a college student would have learned in a course, they won't get credit for their essays. Perhaps you want to write an essay about supervision. You know that supervisory styles are important to effectiveness, but you don't know what various styles are called in the current management literature. Here's the good news. You don't need to know. Let's say that all the current journal articles talk about something they call passive and active supervisory styles. We're making that up, by the way. Even though you haven't read those articles, you have observed an ineffective supervisor who seemed to need everyone to like him and pretty much let people do what they wanted. You thought of him as Mr. Entirely Too Nice Guy, or maybe Mr. Mary Poppins. On the other hand, you observed a supervisor who got a lot done, but employees left her department in droves because they were unhappy with the amount of control she exerted. You thought of her as Ms. Control Freak or Ms. Hatchet Lady. The business essay evaluators will be entirely satisfied if you come up with your own characterizations to describe what you have discovered through your reflection on experience. Psychology tends to focus on individuals. What makes someone act, think, or feel in certain ways? What is the individual's process of growing and learning throughout life? Sociology concerns itself with similar questions, but applied to groups. What motivates groups to act in certain ways? How do groups change over time? What constitutes a group anyway? What factors affect how groups of people interact with one another? Essays in these departments usually include elements of both approaches. Some students are initially more intimidated by Psych-Soc than by business essays. They think that they have to come up with the right answer, or what the evaluator is looking for. Here's more good news. There are hardly any right answers in these disciplines. Instead, the focus is on exploring and examining various perspectives. No textbook on parenting claims to know the one correct way to raise children. Instead, these texts contrast and compare different approaches to child rearing. You have already done this without realizing it when you compared the way you raise your kids to the way you were raised by your parents, and maybe to the way your siblings or friends are raising theirs. However, when you write your essay, you no longer get to assume that your way is right. Instead, you have to consider advantages and disadvantages of various approaches, including your own. When it comes to Psych-Soc essays, you actually know a lot more than you think you do. Once you get the hang of this kind of analysis and synthesis, it will be possible for you to apply it in other settings, which is likely to make you more effective in your workplace as well. Once you have learned to balance experience with generalizations, the next step is to provide reasoned analysis to support them. We call these the why, so what, who cares questions. The following questions will refer back to the 3 essays you read during the first class: Lebanese healthcare practices, adoption, and contract administration. Why did this happen? Not just in your specific instance, but in a more general way. For example, why might Lebanese people be more comfortable with bone setters than with Western-trained doctors? So what? Why is what you have to say important to someone who wants to understand this topic? So what are the consequences for children adopted by gay couples? Who cares? What are the bigger implications? Who cares about the details and form of the construction contract? What difference does it make to the company or other stakeholders? Analysis is not just what you observed or what happened to you, not just what you did or think should be done, and not based just on your individual beliefs.